Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Age of Quarantine. My name is Chris Enriquez, and I'm really excited about tonight's episode. I'm going to be speaking with Blair Shehan from, I knew him from a band called Knapsack. Not personally, but I was a big fan. God, when did this record come out? Knapsack, Day 3 of My New Life was the record that I got in 1997, so it would have been high school. Great, great band. Really loved his voice in particular. Um, and it was a really cool time for music with a lot of bands like The Promised Ring and Jimmy Eat World and Braid. And that was kind of the vibe back then. I really liked this band a lot, and I got excited that they had a member of Sam I Am playing in the band. Um, he went on to do a lot of amazing things with Knapsack and then the Jealous Sound and Racquet Club. We're going to talk to him in just a few minutes here, but I want to thank you all for supporting the show. Hello,
Cool.
my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
I'm good, good.
Awesome, man. I love your background right now. I'm so jealous whenever I see people with a cooler background than my lame one over here. Where are you right now?
I'm in Palm Springs.
Oh, no wonder. I knew it. I mean, I knew you were a Californian, but yeah, you got the trees over there and everything. Very nice.
Yeah.
I'm here in cold Brooklyn, New York. Very different.
Oh, yeah. Well, Brooklyn's different, equally, it's got its own thing going.
Yes, yes, and we both have really great music and arts around us, so there's that. So yeah, man, thanks for making time to do this with us. I really, really, really appreciate it. And I was just talking about how, yeah, I was just discussing how I don't know where time goes, but I got into your music in 1997, and that does not feel like that long ago, but
That's why that's a long time. I mean, what, so it's 23, 4 years ago almost? That's
yeah,
wild.
yeah, older than someone that became legal to drink, but
You think about it, it's like, 19, like if you were in the 1970s, 23 years would be in the 1950s, like a totally different world. You know what I mean?
Oh my God. Yeah, I think about that a lot. Like just like the whole time warp thing, like what you just said. I mean, I don't have to reiterate it again, but like it's just so strange when you think about it that way. Anyway, I've been a fan ever since, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. I obviously wanted you on the show for a reason, but the first thing that I really enjoyed was your voice and your lyrics. And something that I noticed as the years sort of progressed, I'm kind of fanning out on you right now, and then I'll kind of get back to my questions. I'm going off script right now. I love the raspiness of your voice on day 3 of My New Life, because that's how I was introduced to music. And over the years, your voice got way smoother. Was that because you were just, sometimes singers when they're younger, they just have a natural raspiness to their voice.
I think there's probably two parts to the answer to that question. When you sing, you can kind of like mold your voice a little bit so it feels like it mixes in the music better. And I think I did that when I was younger. And then part two of that is that, a lot of times I will sort of scream in key and like the top of my range, and that will really tear things up, and I'll kind of get raspier as I go along. So um, in some ways it was probably when I was younger, it was more of an affectation combined with poor execution that of really pushing.
How old were you when you made this particular record, Day 3 of My New Life?
So that one, let's see. So 90, what year did that come out? Probably like 97.
97 is when it came out.
So I probably made that record when I was about 24.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a, man, it still holds up. That's a cool thing about, it's hard to like predict these things, but you're in a lucky situation where you make music that like you don't listen back to and go, wow, that sounds like it's a product of, like, you could tell certain things are a product of like late 90s, mid 90s, whatever. But you know what I'm talking about? Like hair metal, it's very like dated, and it can be embarrassing depending on who you're talking to. Some people love it, but like this record and everything you've done, it really holds up. So
Well, I
very
appreciate
cool.
I think if you know, how do I put this? You know, if you use like simple ingredients with things that are just sort of, you know, bass guitar, drums, and vocals, and you try to write a good song, you know, that just will always be, that will always happen. That's always happening, you know, all the time.
Right.
And so if you make, you know, and especially if you lean back, like even like in your instrumentation, type of instruments you play, type of amps you play, and things like that have existed, you know, for a long time, it tends to create maybe a staying power that, you know, rather than somebody using the latest thing and everything is so of that moment.
Yeah, you're not following trends. You're not using gimmicks. It's like you guys aren't wearing fucking weird outfits on stage and shit. Well, maybe you have. I don't know.
I don't any, you know, I don't think there was any real thought put into it. It was just sort of the aesthetic that was around us and how we wanted to roll at that time, you know?
For sure. Well, now that I got that out of the way, which was me kind of just fanning out for a second, which I might do occasionally, let's talk about sort of I like to tell people when I get started, this is almost like a public glorified therapy session, because we're going to use an hour right now to kind of dig into your life, if that's cool.
Okay, okay, all right.
Yeah. So talk about, where are you originally from? And then if you can kind of talk to me about how your origins, kind of like where you're from, affected you in terms of you as an artist or a musician, you know?
So, you know, I was born in Los Angeles, and I was born in 70. We live sort of in the end of the valley in this area called San Gabriel, which is by like kind of like Pasadena-ish, maybe something like that. But at the time, pollution was really, really bad, like terrible. Like they would have alerts and you'd have to come inside. So my parents we moved to Eugene, Oregon, probably until I was about 8 or 9. And then from Eugene, Oregon, we moved down to, but Eugene had a lot of rain, and my parents got sick of the rain. So they moved us to Redding, California. And that's really where I went to grade school and high school there, junior college there. So Redding is about, I think at the time I was living there, you know, maybe a town of like 50,000 people, so not really big. 2 hours from Sacramento, give or take, 3.5 hours from San Francisco.
Okay, I was going to ask you. That gives me a bit of an idea of being familiar with the area, of like the kind of type of neighborhood we're talking about.
Yeah, so, you know, kind of at the base of the mountains, a little bit rednecky, not really super cultural, but, you know, a nice town, I guess, you know. My parents live there still. My siblings, I have 2 sisters, they still live there. It's cool. But yeah, so that's where I grew up, you know.
And then what came first for you? So, well, actually, before we talk about how you got started performing and learning instruments, though, like what are your earliest memories of discovering music, period, and just realizing that it had a profound effect on you, like it meant something to you, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You know, we would listen to the radio in the morning, like getting ready for school, and we had this station called K60, and we would call in like at breakfast to win prizes, you know? And it was small, and I think it was an AM station too. I remember I won Greg Kihn Conspiracy record.
Okay.
You remember Greg Kihn, Our Love's in Jeopardy, Baby? So I won that record. But yeah, just listening to the radio, and then I've always liked, you know, pop songs, I guess, you know. I like hooks in a song.
I mean, clearly, yes.
Yeah, so I like a hook. I like a hook. And, you know, I think when I really started getting, you know, probably when I was about 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, the radio started playing like new wave songs. So, you'd get like Thompson Twins or Howard Jones.
Oh, I love Howard Jones. He doesn't get talked about enough. Great. I saw him in concert in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, great singer-songwriter, really great songs. Duran Duran, stuff like that was starting to play, or Madness, Our House,
Yeah.
And I love those songs. Or, and I remember getting, so I had sort of the commercial, new wave pop songs were really on my radar. And then I went to a Baptist Christian school that was really strict until junior high. But I had a friend named Kevin, and my sisters were in like public high school, and things started getting more into like new wave. So this would have been like probably 85, something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So then, I got more and more into like the cooler new wave of like the Smiths or the Cure and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that was really I was that, and then sort of punk rock like really hit our town hard around that time.
I want to talk about that because like I like to ask people about that. I didn't want to assume that you were just automatically a punk guy, because maybe you just like hard rock music, but punk rock is that's I like getting into that early stuff.
So then I left the sort of Baptist Christian junior high. I got to go to our ninth in Reading, where I grew up. We had the high schools everywhere, but all the ninth graders went to one school in the entire like county. So it was one high school full of 14-year-olds,
Right.
It was called Nova, and I went to Nova, and it was just, new wave was cool, but everyone was riding skateboards, and they're building ramps in their backyard, and they were listening, to, Dead Kennedys and, Exploited or whatever.
Very West Coast, yeah.
They were just, and I quickly moved out of being a new wave kid into being a kid that liked punk rock and skateboarding and things like that. So
what were the punk bands that you liked back then?
So, I've had this discussion, I was like, oh, punk is cool. It's all cool, and you'd have a mixtape that would have, you'd watch like the movie, or, you would have mixtapes with just whatever,
Sure.
80s punk rock, But I think for me, what resonated for me was, again, I like the hook. So then I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool, but I think I like this better. So, even, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like, Black Flag's great, but wow, Minor Threat's got some hooks in here, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
And, I like 7 Seconds. This is really great. And this
Absolutely.
So around 14 or so, and then everyone was really pretty chaotic and kind of wild, and there was a big group of, it was a once in a lifetime sort of event that happened to our town, I think, in the mid 80s.
Yeah.
That probably like something like that has never happened there again, but just somehow our proximity and people had friends that lived somewhere else. It really like came into our town. And so there's a big group of kids that were really into punk rock and stuff like that. So, and it was pretty chaotic, and there were they were legit like wild kids,
Yeah, you're talking about like the first or second wave era of stuff going on in California, which is a pretty big deal.
We were separated. I mean, everybody had been to San Francisco or had friends or whatever. So I think from that, then it kind of got a little bit local. So we had, people were friends with people in Operation Ivy or Crimp Shrine or things like that.
Yep.
And so that kind of around, and we would get Maximum Rock and Roll, and you'd read that, and you'd order records, and I'd order records. And then probably around 15, I was like, oh, wow, I think I screwed up, and I ordered like a Youth of Today record and Uniform Choice record. And I was
Hell
like, oh,
yeah.
this is pretty wild and really charismatic. And so then I became I was like the only straight edge kid in our town. So I dove headfirst into that kind of stuff.
I didn't even know that like that was in your stratosphere, and that speaks loudly to me. But don't get me started on that, because like, one thing I should have mentioned is that it's really easy for time to go by too quickly, and we're already 20 minutes in, and
Right.
Instagram will kick us off. So we got to talk about you and your career. But
Sure.
but this is great stuff, because I love knowing this. I'm big on like the roots of a musician and how they came to be, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So just kind of, that was probably the beginning of my real, really getting into music and really like it being part of my lifestyle, and like, oh wow, this is my identity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You might appreciate this, by the way. I'm just going to say one quick thing, but I love when like somebody in a band you might like not assume was into something else. And I got a lot of excitement about you being on the show today. And one of the people that left a message or commented saying that they were excited about tonight is the keyboard player from Pig Destroyer. Was very excited that you were going to be on the show. So shout out to Blake Harrison from Pig Destroyer.
Right.
Apparently he's a fan.
That's cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. So, yeah, this is St. Vitus. We love everybody. Braid has played here, but so has the Cro-Mags, and everyone in between. But so check this out. So what came first, guitar or singing? And like, just kind of walk me through how that came to happen.
First, I got a guitar, and that was, we'd play with some friends, and I, just got a PV amp and I think I had an Epiphone, and then I ended up getting one of those at the pawn shop. This is the 80s, so no one cared, but one of those clear Dan Armstrong like lucite guitars. I had one of those for years, which was really cool. But yeah, I just played guitar, and fooled around.
And were you self-taught?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I still am. Yeah.
Hey, that's the punk rock way, man.
Guitar player by any stretch of the.
And before we get into your first band, or your first, before we get into Knapsack, I don't know if that was your first band, but we should just dive into it so that we could go through all of the bands. I don't want to miss anything here, but who were the artists that were vocally and in terms of guitar songwriting that you were emulating or super inspired by at the time?
So you mean when I first started being in the band?
Yes, yeah. When you first started, being in a band and writing songs and all that.
So, I was thinking about this. I had been the straight edge kid, and so I was really into that stuff. And then then I went to college. Colby, the drummer of Knapsack, we went to high school together. We went to college together. So
shout out to Colby. Yeah.
Boy. And so I started veering out of, again, I said, I sort of got more into like melodic hardcore and then kind of moved from there, right? And so, I think when I first started, I really was into, I got into like Dag Nasty or
yes,
or the Doughboys. I thought were great. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I kind of like that. More songs, more guitar riffing. Part of offshoots of hardcore that were more melodic. I started getting into that, and then I got involved with college radio at KDVS, which was at UC Davis, where I went to college. And then we had access, and all the new records would come in. And so this was probably, 93-ish.
okay. Yeah. So right before, like, as you're getting into Knapsack.
Yeah, 93, 94. So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, okay. You would get, the Super Chunk. I was like, oh wow, this is great, and I really like that. And then I would always lean to the more rocking stuff, the rockin' stuff.
I see that Super Chunk influence for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I love No Pocky for Kitty. Thought it was a fantastic record. Still do. Um, and then locally, like where I went to school in Davis, now we're only an hour from give or take from San Francisco, hour and a half. So we started going to shows, and more locally, you would see Jawbreaker or Sam I Am play, or Big Girl Car, or that kind of stuff was kind of around. So that was or go see like bands like Seaweed or something. So I always liked those.
Oh, God, what a good band!
Seaweed?
Yeah,
great band.
Yeah.
So I always liked or gravitated or wanted to do a quick turnaround. I always say on like, okay, I like what they're doing. I can do that kind of thing too. So that was sort of my
your locals basically.
I mean, locals, the stuff that would come through the college radio, things. It was all just kind of like coming at me, and I was sort of interpreting it my version of what I liked about those bands.
For sure, it makes a lot of sense too when you think about the well, not just all of your music, but the early stuff that we're about to get into with Knapsack specifically. Because I was a Sam I Am fan, and shout out to whoever's watching from the Sam I Am account. What's up, guys? But I saw that Sergio from Sam I Am was in Knapsack.
No,
Oh, sorry. So got it. Thank you. Now, when and how did Knapsack form?
So before we went to school, when we went to college, we had a band that was called Downtime. We put out a demo tape, and then so that was sort of the beginnings of it. Colby and I went to college. We sent out that demo tape when we were at college from all the contacts we had at college radio to find somebody to put out a 7-inch, and a label from Rhode Island called Constant Change Records that they put out some hardcore stuff. I think they put out some kind of cool stuff. I'm trying to I want to say they put out like a live verbal assault or a Swizz live, some stuff like that. But anyway, they were going to put out this record, and me and Colby were trying to find a bass player. We kind of ran through a couple of different bass players, and that's kind of when it started. And then, believe it or not, we recorded 2 songs. The guy said he was going to put out the 7-inch, and as Knapsack, we designed it, everything. And then he did test pressings, and he said, I ran out of money. So there's actually a Knapsack record. I think there's probably 5 test presses of it. So I don't even have one.
Is it the first one?
This is nobody has it. Never came out.
Oh, it's like before your, yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Before the first official release. Yeah. And I got to mention, by the way, Colby and I are part of a cool drummers collective that any Knapsack fans watching, check out Colby's videos. If you look up hashtag indie drummer collective, you'll see some great videos that Colby's been posting. So shout out to him, great drummer. Yeah, I loved the band when I first heard Day 3 of My New Life, and then the conversation is starting right now. Really kind of furthered your popularity. This is a time that I could speak to where CMJ is a big thing. The 90s are happening, and this style is pretty prevalent. You're seeing bands like this, like Sam I Am and Jawbreaker, and bands like this on MTV occasionally. Tell me, what that time period was like. Because I felt like that album, Day 3 of My New Life, you guys are starting to get pretty popular in the college scene and getting on good tours.
I would say pretty popular is a stretch.
Yeah, sorry. Let me rephrase that. In the underground scene.
Even within the underground, I would say that was a stretch.
Okay.
We were certainly, right when Day 3 came out, I think people were like, huh, these guys, and then we put that record out, and shortly after, Sergi's brother we played with Sergi's brother's band. He's got a twin brother, and we played with that band, and then he brought Sergi to a show, And Sergi was like, "Oh, I don't think Sam Iam's going to be playing. I think we're done for, done. I'll play guitar for you guys." We said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea for sure." Because we looked up to him. So he joined the band, and then we sort of, we started gaining a little bit of steam for sure, but not like a lot of steam.
Well, the conversation is starting right now. For a lot of people that I knew back then, they were really into that record. 'Cause I was in college, I was working at a college radio station. I had a lot of friends at that point getting into that style of music, and we were going, and here in the city, we were going to see a lot of bands that would probably be on the same bills as you here at Brownies, Jimmy Eat World, Braid, that sort of thing, Promise Ring. So that record for sure, I felt like you were getting on bigger tours and starting to get around.
Here's the thing about that record. We made that record, and all of a sudden we made that record, and then Sergio was like, "Hey, Sam Am's going to get back together," and Colby, the drummer, was like, "I'm going to take a job in San Francisco," and I had ended up moving to LA, and so we put out that record, and then everyone's like, "Well, let's just do a tour for it," and then that's it. So there was never any time to really like live with.
I guess what you're saying is like, yeah, you're living life kind of just like, it's not was there no career aspiration, I guess, happening?
Wasn't that there was, I wouldn't say that there was no aspirations with it, but it was decided that we were going to release it, and we were going to do this tour, and that was going to be it.
Right. That answers. Yeah.
There was no real there was no animosity between anybody. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, this is just what's happening. Okay, cool. We'll just do this tour."
Right. Well, but you answered my next question. I was wondering why the band disbanded. Before we move on to Jealous Sound and eventually Racquet Club, can you did reunite, and you did some touring. You did a big tour with Coheed, and you did I obviously did some cheating and looked at the Wikipedia and all that. I missed the reunion, but which is a bummer. Did you guys ever discuss writing and recording again? And this is a three-part question, but like, could we see anything else happen? In other words,
what happened was that we started playing. We played those shows and had fun, and it was really great to just play well-attended shows and do some travel. Yeah. Really, it was a lot of fun. And then Sergi and I sort of started hanging out more because of more than we had in the years past, and that's when we started talking about doing something new, and that's how Racquet Club came about. So it was me and Sergi.
Got it. Yeah, no, because I know that there's crossover there, and that comes later. What's cool about your music career is that you have not one but several bands, and I was talking to a lot of people today because you can pick from your catalog, and I have a friend that said that Racquet Club is his favorite thing that you ever did. Some people will say the Jealous Sound is. Some people will say Knapsack. So you have three bands that people can choose from that they all love. I think that's probably a great.
Pick a band.
Yeah, I mean, some people struggle to get one band. People pay attention to one band, so that's pretty cool if you ask me. When and how does the Jealous Sound come into the picture? Because obviously that took up a large part of your life.
Yeah. So Jealous Sound, I moved to LA, and I started just hanging out. There was a band called Sunday's Best that was on Polyvinyl.
Yep.
There was a mutual friend, Pedro Benito, was in Sunday's Best, guitar player. My friend Tom Ackerman, who used to be in the band called Skip Loader back in the day. He basically, myself, Pedro, and then Tom played drums on the first EP, and recorded that for his senior project. And he was in a recording school at Loyola Marymount. So he ended up recording that for us. And we put out that EP. My friend John McGinnis, who he played bass, sang backup harmonies on J Sound, which was real, a distinct part of the band, and was involved in the songwriting as well.
Okay.
So we started that after I moved to LA. So I sort of reassembled another band, and then yeah, it's all.
A lot are your bands, would you say, like, let me ask you this in an interesting way, where like if you look at some people, like for example, I'm sure you're fans of these guys, like Drive Like Jehu, you have John Reese, right? And he kind of has all these different projects, even Rick Froberg from Jehu, where it's like one band is Rocket from the Crypt, the other one is Night Marchers, the other one's Hot Snakes. So there's like a underlying thing that sort of connects it all, and it's him. But for you and your bands, I guess this is where I'm going with this question. Were you trying to kind of do something different when you walked into Jealous Sound, or is it just a continuation of you?
I think I was. It's so funny. As much as you think you're stretching and becoming some new thing, and you're like, oh my gosh, we just, we just made OK Computer. It's like, no, you didn't. You made, with maybe some new elements, but it still pretty much sounds like one of your rock bands, So
I love that you just used that as an example. I don't mean to cut you off, but like, I'm sure you remember when OK Computer came out, and everybody back then that was in a band was like, oh, I'm going to start getting delay pedals now and doing weird shit. And everybody just fucking flipped the script. And it's like, yo, just stick to what you're good at, man.
Yeah. So, I think we tried to stretch, and, we added, for me, we added sort of, the vocal harmonies and maybe some more sophisticated compositions, maybe, Yeah. So, I definitely tried to stretch and did, so yeah.
Well, I think you were also like, not to you're developing as a songwriter, you're growing as a musician, and it shows. But what I like about your music is that you stuck to what you're good at and expanded on it, and like you just kind of summarized that in a great way without patting yourself on the back. But that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Is what makes you good at what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I have my wheelhouse, and I think, for better or for worse, if I put on a guitar and we show up and we play with drums and bass, gonna be somewhat, it's gonna come out that way. And there's no, I don't know that I have the ability to do something completely different or to, reinvent everything,
Right. There's a great quote from the Foo Fighters documentary Back and Forth, where, when Dave Grohl started the band and left Nirvana, people were complaining in the press that he had started a band that sounded like the band he just came out of, and it's like he makes this joke. It's like, what do you want me to do? Write a reggae record or a polka record? It's like, I was in that band.
Like what, you talk about, everyone, as people age, they're like, they think that they want to do, they can't. I mean, not so much anymore, but I think there was a time where a lot of people were like, oh, we want to be a country band, or we want to be this, and, Americana roots band or whatever. So I've always just believed, write a good rock song,
Absolutely. Well, I got a cool comment here from a great band that a band called Hopesfall watching and commenting. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching. And they're saying, been listening to this man's music for over 20 plus years. What a legend. So whatever you're doing has been working. So you got done the first EP. Seemed like it was well received, obviously, because when Kill Them With Kindness came out, that was a notable record, not just for the band, but in your career. Can you talk? I mean, again, I cheated and looked at some stuff online, but it was named one of the best albums of the year by Spin Magazine.
Yeah, that was nice. That's something to send home to your mom and dad.
Absolutely. So talk to me about making that record and the reception, what that was like.
So making that record, we brought our drummer kind of the drummer we had at the time had some sort of difficulty, so he couldn't do the thing, and so I had a friend, this guy Tony Palermo that I knew, and Tony Palermo is now the drummer.
He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, Tony P. Love him. He's the drummer for Papa Roach now.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
And I think at the time he was playing with Unwritten Law or something like that. But
yep.
We had gotten him to play some stuff. He played some of the songs on the EP, and then we did a little 5-night run, I think, with At the Drive-In or something like that on the West Coast, and he played those shows. And then he was like, "Oh, I can't really be in the band, but I'll play on the record." We said, "Cool." So he came. He played on the drums on that record, and which really helps the record. You know, he's a great drummer. Really great.
He's an amazing drummer. He deserves a serious shout out. Whether you like Papa Roach or not, or Unwritten Law, or Pulley, he was in Pulley. Tony Palermo is a fantastic drummer. He's done a lot of different styles, and his work with you is my favorite because it's a band.
I mean, he really brought it home. So and then Tim O'Hare came out and produced the record in LA. We essentially we did the drums at a studio, and then there was a place called Downtown Rehearsal, and there was a room that had 2 rooms, and they had a glass between them. So we were able to set up a live room and then set up like a control room between the 2, and that's where we ended up making the record.
Okay. And while we're talking about drummers, and then we'll talk about the records, but I wanted to also talk about how Adam Wade from Jawbox and Shudder to Think, who is one of the best drummers in my mind of all time. And if anyone out there does not know who that is, pick up fucking Pony Express by Shudder to Think if you want to get your mind blown.
So Adam, after we made that record, we didn't have a drummer because Tony was doing his own thing, and Adam lived in the neighborhood and was friends with people. And I said, "Hey, do you want to play with us?" He's like, "I'm not doing anything." Okay. So Adam joined up. Yeah.
And what was it like playing with him in the band? I must have been amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, Adam's a great drummer, really great guy. It was, you know, another sort of person that was from bands that you were like, you know, respected, and you felt lucky that they wanted to play with you.
Yeah, you've had some really good players over the years, man. I'm just gonna sing you some praise. We've been getting some great comments here. At Life Deal and Regret, can't say I've remained as much of a fan of a single person's songwriting for as long as I have of Blair's. And then Joe Grillo from another great band back then, Garrison. What's up, man? Agreed with Hope's Fall. Blair's vocal phrasing crushes me. Mike Ireland from I Am the Avalanche, who have a great record out right now, says Blair is one of my favorite songwriters ever and a super nice guy. Great one.
Oh, shucks, I didn't know I was going to get such positive affirmation tonight. What a treat.
Hey man, like I said, it's a glorified therapy session because I get to ask you questions, but instead of us being critical, everyone's just giving you a lot of praise. So it's a good therapy session, I guess.
Yeah.
So the band, this band took up, if I'm not mistaken, the bulk of your career as a musician.
Yeah, we did that record, the EP, and then we played through maybe 2005, 2006, and then I left and just didn't do any music for a while.
I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And before we get off the drummers, at Sam I Am, they're asking, what about Frenchie on drums? Maybe you can comment on whatever they're talking about here.
Frenchie, that was Michel Brevine, and he played with us for a while, and then he was playing with us up until we did the Kill 'Em With Kindness record. So that's when Tony stepped in.
Okay, got it. So yes, the band experienced some difficulties. I didn't realize this, by the way. So this might be old news for some people and for you, but like I actually had no clue that there was this whole thing that happened until today. Basically, it seemed there was some difficulties in the mid-2000s regarding a major label, and you were working on an EP, Got Friends, which eventually saw the light of day. The band was sort of getting pretty successful at this point, obviously, enough to get the attention of a major label. Can you talk about what was going on at this point when you Taking
Yeah,
a break?
I can. So what happened was, so what did happen? So actually, it's actually a little bit inverted. So before Kill 'Em With Kindness came out, we ended up signing a deal with Mojo Records. It was through Universal, right?
Right, big deal,
And
yeah.
then Universal ended up getting rid of Mojo, so we had a contract that was kind of dead in the water, and we ended up getting out of that contract. And then Paul Fisher, who ran Better Looking Records, who put out our AP, we just made the record and put it out through Better Looking at that point.
Do you have to redo it, or is it the same recording?
No, we hadn't started recording it yet.
Oh, good for you, because I've heard nightmare stories.
They gave us a little bit of money to get out. Like they owed us some money, like because they ended up canceling the contract because the Mojo had been sold to Jive Records. It was like, boy band stuff. And they really weren't interested in us, and we were not really proven, and we didn't have much, Kill 'Em. We hadn't made that record yet, so there really wasn't, they had to kind of hope that we could do something, and they didn't anyway. So that was that, and then that record came out, and then we ended up after that record. What happened was we signed up with the label, the Militia Group at the time.
Yep.
We were gonna make the record ourselves. We started it, and then I kind of fell apart, and then we didn't finish it, and then I moved away to Las Vegas for a few years. After that run, I ended up coming back to LA. And I'll put this all together kind of with a bow on it for you, so this will make sense.
No, it's cool. Yeah.
But then I came back, and I started hanging out with Pedro at the time. And Pedro, we had done, Jay Sound had toured with that band, The Fire Theft. And Nate from Sunny Day was in that band. And then, anyway, so when I came back to town, Pedro had been hanging out with Nate a bunch. They built a friendship. And he's like, hey, we're going to get Sunny Day Real Estate back together, yada, yada. You guys should get back together and do the tour. I said yes. So we did that, and then I was like, okay, well, let's make a record. And then I reached out to the guys at Militia Group again. I said, hey, sorry about that time when we took that money and I didn't finish that record for you. So here I am again. What's left in that budget? Can we make a record for you guys? And I make this right. And I said, okay, cool. So they did, and that's when we made A Gentle Reminder.
Yes, and so okay, let's backtrack a little bit too, because first of all, what a great way to come back to things. Hey, not only will you get back together and play, but you're going to go on this amazing tour with this legendary band, Sunny Day Real Estate, and Nate Mendel, who is also in Foo Fighters, of course, is inviting you to do this, and it's a phenomenal record. Sorry,
I said thank you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And did Nate play bass on it?
He did. I think he played on like 6-7 songs on that record. He played on
most of it. Yeah.
Recorded that record at 606.
You recorded at 606.
Yeah, that was recorded there, and we were able to do it because obviously, Foo-related projects can kind of sneak in there and do stuff. So we were able to kind of make a record there.
What a cool experience that must have been, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really great. And then John Lousteau, also known as Lou, is the sort of house engineer of the 606. And he is a dear friend of mine and produced that record for us.
Yeah, it's a great record. I love that, and I love Nate's playing, and that's cool. I like that he took you under his wing and tried to help out. Now, here's the interesting thing. You can get into it however way you want, and we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to get into Racquet Club, so I'm going to ask this just briefly, but why did the band break up at what seems to be such a high point?
Look, I don't. I would. How do I put this? I moved to Palm Springs from LA. And then when I moved out here, we were going to do the next thing. And we started working on that next record. And I just, at that time, was not up to the challenge of all that it would entail. And so rather than kind of just sit there and say, oh, we're not doing anything, but maybe we'll do something, rather than that, we said, we're going to wrap it up. So I just wasn't in the headspace to bring it home. I didn't have the chutzpah at the time to do
No,
that.
I mean, look, people forget, like, you're doing this stuff we're all human beings, you know what I mean? Like, you go through things that.
Conceptually, or people have a concept of what it is, or like, oh my gosh, how can you, like, da da da, or like you broke up, or oh my gosh, but these are labors of love, and they are artistic endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
being in a band is a lot of energy, a lot of interpersonal relationships, a lot of sort of sacrifice, a lot of stresses and strains on your other life, so it's not worrying, like let's say if Green Day were to break up, oh my gosh, people would be like, oh my gosh, but those guys would be walking away from this lucrative, ecosystem of an actual career. It's much easier for me because there's nothing.
No, of course.
But
you start to understand that more and more as you get older when you're around this sort of stuff. I mean, it's an artistic endeavor, as you mentioned. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And the things that go into it and all that, it's complicated.
It's very complicated. It's very, very, very complicated. And but at the same token, I'm talking to you right now, and that's a direct correlation to these artistic endeavors I've done over my life. And I'm grateful that I've done those, and it's valuable to me.
Yes. Well, let's bring it back, because Racquet Club we didn't get into, and I don't think I mentioned this, but the Instagram it kicks you off once you get to the 9 o'clock mark. You can't even keep going. So I don't want to miss talking about a bunch of stuff. And a friend of mine had a question that he wanted me to ask you about this band. This is his favorite band that you've ever been in. So when and how did Racquet Club come to be? Because you mentioned briefly earlier, but get into that a little bit, and then we'll.
Yeah, real quick. Serge and I were playing with Knapsack. We enjoyed our time together. I enjoy his company. I get the impression he enjoys mine. We also can sort of squabble, like bang heads with each other, but that's great. I like that about him. So we said, let's do something. Let's do a creative project together. And so we got it going, and kind of petered out a little bit, and then Rise Records said, hey, they saw we were working on something. They stepped in and said, we want to put it out. I said, cool, we'll do it. I committed.
It's a great label.
Yeah, and so Bob Penn, who was the later drummer for the Jealous Town, who's a phenomenal drummer, I said, Bob, you want to play with us? He said, yep. And then Ian was my neighbor. He's the bass player. I said, hey, do you know any bass players? He said, hey, yeah, you're looking at him. I said, cool. So he joined up, and that's how Racquet Club came to be. And
then, okay, so this is the question that I'm going to give a shout out. Ryan from the band Gracer wanted me to ask you this. How the hell did you get the drum and bass sounds on that album? They sound so dirty and clean at the same time. The production rules. So that's a fan-submitted question for you.
From Racquet Club. Alex Newport.
Oh, shit, really? I fucking love Alex. He's the best.
Yeah, so Alex had recorded This Conversation Is Ending, and, years and years later, he's in LA, lives 5 miles away from where I lived at the time, and we said, hey, you want to do it? He said, yeah. So he did that. So, and obviously Ian, the bass player, and,
Shout out to Alex. He's one of the best. I did some work with him, and and we always have to mention Nail Bomb when his name comes up. What a fucking phenomenal band.
Alex is great, and it's always fun to have a producer that speaks with a British accent. Makes you feel like you're really making a record.
I know, right? It's the best.
Hey, Blair. Okay, yeah. So it's always nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the band broke up.
Yeah.
It lasted 3 years, and you did some amazing tours.
We made a record, did some tours. We started working on some other stuff. But who knows? I mean, I tend, if we look back through all this stuff, it's like, wash, rinse, repeat. I kind of have a tendency to go artistically, and then like shut down and then miss it and then start it again.
Right, right. It's not like you can't when people say break up, it's so dramatic because it's also, it's like, you can always revisit it as you have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a tendency to do that, and it always feels very, it just feels very overwhelming sometimes to start that journey. It's like the weight of it all can seem like a lot, and maybe I'm being overly dramatic or precious about it. But it always just feels like a lot, and I have a big responsibility, and I don't know how I'm going to do it or pull it off, and I don't want to do something that sucks. So I feel,
Right.
I may like sort of implode under the weight of it, but yeah.
No, I understand. I absolutely understand. It is art at the end of the day, and when you are when you have people who appreciate it the way they do, you just want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and that it actually is coming from the right place and you're ready to do it when it's out there, right?
Yeah, again, because it's not some like financial windfall that's going to come from it, or some change of lifestyle or whatever. Really, the reward, that's it. And the sort of things that you get to do as far as travel and friendship and creating something with other people. That's really that's what it's about. And so you got to. I don't want to carry.
No, I understand. Yeah.
I don't want to carry the dead weight of bad songs or things that I have to own in. Like having to play those is just like, no, I don't think so. I don't want that.
You're, like I said, you're really lucky because it never happened to you. So you kept the quality control was up to par the whole time, man.
Yeah.
You never suffered that. Is there anything that you have happening that you want to share with us coming up, whether it's like a new project, any music or non-music? Maybe you have like somebody the other day that I interviewed had a business that they started that they wanted to promote. Is there anything you want to share with everyone watching?
Not really. Promoter. So, I'm hopeful to sort of get it together to do another artistic musical something in the not too distant future and figure out what that would look like. I don't know.
Well, we have a comment from at I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, at Gemco Fever. Just bring back the jealous sound and let's call it a day.
Oh man, yeah. Complicated, yeah.
And then we got another question before we wrap it up here from at Dislemonia. I don't know if I'm saying that correct. Did Felled Trees ever play a show?
No, that was fun. I sang Felled Trees, to people that don't know, was Sergi put together a Dinosaur Jr. cover record with multiple singers, with Garrett from Texas Reason,
I love Garrett.
Myself, and Ed from Thrice played bass, and yeah, so I just went in and sang 2 songs, but that was there was no performance with that, but that was fun.
I hope that we see you come back with something, and if you need a drummer and I can be a part of it, I'm right here, man. I want to thank you so much for doing this, man. This has been awesome. It's been really cool. It went by so quickly. That's always a sign of a great conversation to me,
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it. This was fun, and yeah, cool.
Yeah, and anybody watching, which is a bunch of you here that are still commenting, we got everyone's leaving comments as we're about to fucking stop. They just starting to do it now. I wanted to let you all know that if you missed any of it, you can watch the whole thing all over again in about 5 minutes on the St. Vitus Instagram, or you could go find my YouTube channel and look me up on there, and this will eventually be up there with all the other episodes. So this has been an Age of Quarantine episode. My name is Chris Enriquez. We have Blair Shehan, and thank you so much again, man. And stay safe out there, and please give us some music that we can listen to.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, brother. Peace out.
Peace out.
Care. Thanks for watching, everybody. That was awesome. Love these great episodes when they happen and they can just roll so smoothly. I'll be back here with Bob Nana from Braid on and Hey Mercedes on Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please tune in, guys. We appreciate the support. And if you like St. Vitus, go on the website and check out some of the new gear and order it, because we need your support. We need your support right now. Okay? Stay safe, everybody.